Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Millais Gray. The question for discussion in today's Open Circle live stream, or of course in the Open Circle replay, whichever one you happen to be wishing to tune into, is titled with the following question: what happens when institutions cannot admit harm? So the reason for this is because we want to look into how survivors, I say surpassers, but also leaders and society can actually move from denial toward ethical healing. Very important. So, what happens when institutes cannot admit harm? So, think of a crossroads at dawn. One path is labeled denial and fading into darkness. The other is labeled acknowledgement, leading towards a beautiful sunrise. Okay, so again, welcoming all to the Open Circle. With that illustration, I thought we could just explore this question that affects not only spiritual abuse survivors, I like to say surpassers, because we're getting to better places, we're in better places. But I want to talk about families, I want to talk about institutions, I want to talk about governments, I want to talk about religious systems, workplaces, and police systems, legal systems, and society itself. So again, I've got a few notes that I've made that I want to be drawing from so that it's at least structured. So the question is, what happens when institutions cannot admit harm? Perhaps there's actually a deeper question here, because the question, you could say, logically forms into, well, what happens to the human soul when reality itself becomes contested? So many survivors are not only harmed by events themselves. Often the deeper wound comes from, we say, yes, what is it? Retaliatory shunning, retaliatory removal, retaliatory discrediting among the society that we thought was going to produce safety. So there's confusion, there's silencing or silence, there's minimization, there's defensiveness, there's social pressure. So the feeling that one must deny their own perception in order to maintain peace. So that's not unique to one religion, one ideology, or one organization. This is a human systems problem. Welcome to the human race. So, in the Open Circle, are we going to be attacking people? It's not what it's about. It's not about humiliation. It's not about revenge. It's about understanding. We want to build bridges. We want to move toward ethical maturity together. This is the idea. This is the important thing. So if we can heal, let's heal. If we can't, well, we're going to have to see how we can manage the situation to get the best kind of result. We want a positive result. Let's talk about the human nervous system. The human nervous system needs coherence. So let's think. A child trying to assemble a puzzle. There's pieces of the puzzle. Some pieces are hidden behind an authority figure's back, but the task is to put this puzzle together. So psychologists have long comprehended, long understood that human beings which, by the way, this phrase, human beings, was discouraged in Jehovah's Witness circle. They would only ascribe that towards Supreme Consciousness, Jehovah God himself, or who they call or identify as Jehovah God. So humans need coherence. Human beings, I'm going to say, require coherence to remain psychologically healthy. Right? It's important. You want to go to Carl Jung? Carl Jung spoke about fragmentation of the self. Viktor Frankl, V-I-K-T-O-R-F-R-A-N-K-L. Frank, F-R-A-N-K-L, right? L. He wrote about human need for meaning. Here's a name that we've been discussing on the channel or in the circles. Dr. Bessel, B-E-S-S-E-L, van der Kolk, K-O-L-K. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk showed how trauma lives in the body. This pain here. This in the eye. The body records it. Here's Dr. Jennifer Freyd, F-R-E-Y-D. It's Jennifer with double N, I-F-E-R, F-R-E-Y-D, Freyd. Explored betrayal trauma. What happens when trusted systems deny reality? So we're going to try and make this as simple as possible. Been told, Matt, please make it as simple as you can. So I'm going to try my level best, because I wonder if we remember child on hot stove. Remember this illustration? It's not a unique one. It's not a one that we're unfamiliar with. But imagine the child touches hot stove. Ah! Parent says, yes, that burned you. Let's help you. But the child remains psychologically coherent, right? But imagine that the parent says to that, we want to say normal child, when I say psychologically coherent, I mean got their senses about it. The parent says, it never happened. You're exaggerating. You're making noise. What is it? Why are you shouting? Gee, you're causing trouble. I'm not. Oh, you're talking back to me. You're talking back. Why are you attacking the family? I'm not. Yeah, you did it again. So the child faces two pains. The injury, touched the stove, got a burn there. There it is. Right? That's a pain. So that's the injury itself. And then the collapse of shared reality. So that second wound can become deeper than the burn on the hand or wherever the injuries happened. So many survivors of institutional harm know exactly what that feels like. Now, have we comprehended why institutions become defensive? So here's the idea. Let's go into another image and endeavor to simplify and just try and make it a bit easier, right? So here's the illustration. Large castle wall. It's got tiny cracks in it. Okay, crack. Castle wall. Watchtowers on the top, right? Now, your workers come along, and you know what they decide to do? They are going to paint over the cracks. Painting. There's cracks. Cracks here, cracks in the stone. This tower is full of cracks. No. We're just going to paint it. Let's paint it. That's what it needs. We're going to wash and paint it. Yeah, we even scrub it. Let's scrub it out. Tum-ti-tum-ti-tum. It needs a clean. That's what it needs. And it needs paint. Matt, what are you talking about? This is an illustration of what happens. Instead of repairing the cracks, they decide to wash them, or they decide to Paint them. Maybe not even wash. Just paint them. Let's just paint it. Instead of going to the cracks and saying, the integrity of this building, this wall is what's important here. They should be repairing it. Okay, not just painting it. Painting is cosmetic. So let's ask an important ethical question. Why do institutions become defensive? The answer is surprisingly human. You ready for this? Institutional fear. Institutions fear loss of reputation, loss of trust, legal exposure, collapse of identity, and fragmentation of authority. When your whole institution has been pushing authority, kingdom, government, rulership, perfect order, fragmentation of authority is shaking its foundational cornerstones. It's building. It's putting cracks in the system. Now that happens in churches, it happens in corporations, it happens in governments, it happens in enforcement agents or agencies, activist groups or healing communities even. Can happen in the open circle. Why? Because we're human. It can happen in universities. It can happen in families. So let's talk about another psychologist here. Irving Janis, I-R-V-I-N-G, J-A-N-I-S. J-A-N-I-S, yes. So psychologist Irving Janis called part of this phenomenon groupthink. Heard of that one? Groupthink. So the system unconsciously prioritizes preserving unity. Psalm 133:1, Psalm 133:1, Psalm 133:1. Prioritizes the unity over confronting uncomfortable truth. Now some will say, no, it's conscious about it. Okay. Yep. And it's also unconscious. Right? So the system unconsciously, talking about the system, is the system conscious or unconscious? Okay. What happens is you get this prioritizing. Right? Maybe there's a sharper way to say this, but that's what you get. Instead of looking at the uncomfortable truth, it says, hey, unity first. So, you can say often, the people inside as individuals, the people, when we say people, individuals, okay? Inside that system, very often are not evil people. Matt, what are you saying? Let me tell you. Yeah, I said often. Didn't say all the time. I said often. Individuals inside the system are not evil people. Sometimes they are frightened people. They're frightened people, very often. They're conditioned people. They are overloaded people. The mental bandwidth at the breaking point, past the breaking point, right? And you have people protecting what they believe is sacred with their whole heart, mind, soul, body, assets, everything. Now that doesn't erase the harm. But understanding this complexity helps prevent hatred. So an ethically mature person, an ethically mature examination and outlook and conclusion or management requires us to hold both truths simultaneously. Now, some time ago in this channel was a video called The Red Light Denial. It was an illustration, or it was a video that incorporated this illustration. So I'm just going to go through it here. A red light traffic light. Red light. Bonk. There we go. Glowing brightly. There it is. While several people argue whether it is red at all. Maybe this person's color weak. Maybe this person sees red as green. There's all kinds of complications. Right? But the red traffic light is there for traffic safety, for traffic coordination. But your people are arguing over whether it is red. So this is the illustration. So let's see if we can, expand upon it a little bit. Somebody drives through the red robot or the red light, traffic light. Goes through. Beep, 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 beep. Goes through. Now, I'd like to say this happens several times and there's warnings. Passenger, hey, what are you doing? But maybe we should just make it simple. A witness reports it. So instead of saying, oh yes, I made a mistake, the driver goes, that never happened. In fact, in the illustration I go, it's happened several times. In fact, I actually put a police officer or a detective warrant officer in the passenger seat in the illustration. Okay. He warns the driver, hey, what are you doing? First time, it looks like a mistake. Second time, because, hey. Right? But when it becomes a pattern, established pattern, and the driver says, oh, no, that never happened. And then says, oh, I think you're misunderstanding what's going on. Or the driver goes, hey, you are a passenger. You are hostile. I'm going to have to deal with you just now because you're hostile. Or says to the detective warrant officer, oh, you're dangerous. Maybe it isn't even a police person. It's a passenger. But now they're getting told, oh, you are dangerous. Or, hey, you're attacking the community here in this vehicle. There's passengers here. You're attacking these persons who want to get to the destination. No. So now notice something. The original problem was small. It was maybe a late red at first. But the denial escalates the situation. It hasn't corrected. And in fact, it's emboldened the individual. It's now crossed over from a mistake to a pattern. So what has happened? The denial escalates the situation. Now, what if you have a situation where multiple authority figures begin protecting the denial? So if multiple authority figures begin protecting the denial, the witness may begin questioning their own sanity. What do you think of that? So this is where institutional harm becomes psychologically destabilizing. Maybe the witness goes, I think I'm crazy. Yeah, there you go. He's admitted it. Yeah, we've got it on record. He admits. He admits. At least maybe he's crazy. Yeah, I am crazy. Yeah, he said it. He said it. He's crazy. So that's where this institutional harm becomes psychologically destabilizing, because now reality itself becomes negotiable. Person's sanity, negotiable. And that is deeply exhausting. It's deeply troubling for anybody who's observed this. It's deeply exhausting and deeply damaging for human beings who are going through that, who have suffered it. So now, what is the difference between accountability and destruction? So we've looked at some of the videos. Some might have seen this last time, but we're gonna drop on this one again. And you've got a bridge. So the bridge now, in this particular case, this bridge is being repaired very carefully by who? Engineers, rather than demolished violently. Let's take a wrecking ball. No, we're not going to do that. Engineers, we've looked at it. We believe we can put in support structures. We can preserve this. We can strengthen it. We can make it better than ever. Right. So, one of the great fears in an institutional setting is this, that if we admit mistakes, the bridge is going to collapse. Everything is going to collapse. But when we look at history, what do we see? We see the opposite. Okay? Healthy systems become stronger through accountability. So the legal world does understand this. Modern governance does understand this. Those trained in trauma-informed psychology, they understand this. So true accountability is not destruction. It's not. It is repair. It's sending in the engineers to say, no. Beautiful bridge. Yeah, it's got some cracks. It's even got some character with it. We don't have to demolish it. We're just going to put in some steel girders here, and here. Take a look at this. Improvement. There it is. Repair. Wow, this is a thing of beauty. Yes. Now, in this illustration, imagine now a bridge engineer discovered a structural weakness. Goes, oh, you know what? These girders don't meet in the middle where they're supposed to, and that's a real weak point, folks. We gotta sort this out. Would you want that engineer to hide it? Would you? You've come all this way. There's been engineers that have worked, but the center here, where these girders, where this reinforcement is supposed to meet, no, it's not meeting. It's not meeting properly. Do you want that engineer to keep quiet? After all of this investment, we've come this far. Would you prefer that the engineer comes forward and says, oh, I've discovered the structural weakness, but there is solutions? I actually believe that we've got enough engineers to come together, and I believe we've got enough of a workforce, if we can unify, to actually correct this thing. So the same principle here applies spiritually, socially, institutionally. Ethics is not the enemy of loyalty, right? It's not. In fact, ethical honesty is the highest form of loyalty. So what do survivors need the most? Often they need this kind of idea. Ready for another illustration? 2 chairs. So one's occupied by a distressed person. The other is somebody who's listening quietly and attentively. So many survivors are actually not surviving vengeance. Some do, but many are not seeking vengeance. You ready for what they're actually seeking? Tell me if I'm right. It's because it's astonishingly simple. Ready? Many survivors are seeking to be heard. Many survivors are seeking to be acknowledged. Not to be mocked, not to be bullied, not to be erased, humiliated, punished further. No. They want to be heard, they want to be acknowledged. Not mocked, not erased. Enter Dr. Gabor Maté. G-A-B-O-R-M-A-T accent E. Gabor Maté often speaks about the healing power of compassionate presence. I've asked my friend, the psychologist, I said, tell me, what's the best thing we can do? Is it by being present? Is it by being compassionate? Is it? You know, what if we're forced to be silent? Are we in the right direction? And I said, secondly, promoting a place that fosters truth. He goes, yes. So, Gabor Maté says that healing begins with a sentence as simple as, I believe your experience mattered. Or you can say matters. So notice, not necessarily agreement on every interpretation. Oh, we agree with you. Oh, you've developed spiritually like this. You've got this philosophy now. We agree, we agree, we agree, we agree. No. It's not necessarily agreement on every interpretation. It's an acknowledgement of humanity. Guess what that does to the nervous system? It changes it. It changes communities. It changes outcomes. And perhaps in our open circle, whatever time zone we might be in, someone listening needs to hear this. You ready? Your perception matters. Your dignity matters. Your humanity matters. Maybe I should change your to our. So let's move on to the next illustration. So why good people sometimes participate in harm. So here's the illustration. You've got ordinary people and they are what? Standing in a crowd. All right, standing in a crowd. And they're uncertain. They're looking at one another for cues before acting. Okay. Refreshed my mind here. So this is a difficult but important subject. Okay, so why do ordinary people sometimes participate in harmful systems? So psychology has explored this very, very deeply. So you've got the Milgram experiments, M-I-L-G-R-A-M. So what did these demonstrate? They demonstrated how authority pressure affects behavior. Philip Zimbardo, P-H-I-L-I-P, Z-I-M-B-A-R-D-O, explored role conformity. Hannah Arendt, dropping names here, H-A-N-N-A-H-A-R-E-N-D-T. Hannah spoke about the banality of evil. Ordinary people participating in harmful structures without monstrous intent. This does not excuse wrongdoing, but it reminds us human beings are highly social creatures. So many people fear exclusion more than error. And this is why ethical courage matters so much. Not aggression, not superiority, but you could say, I don't know, gentle, quiet courage. It's the courage that's important. A dignified courage, a principled courage. The courage to say, hey, something feels wrong here. Can we examine this? Can we improve? So that courage is precious in every society. So let's move on to spiritual recovery beyond fear. So let's imagine this idea. Here's a person stepping out of a dark hallway into open air and sunlight. So for many spiritual abuse survivors, surpassers, the deepest recovery isn't merely intellectual. It's existential. So people may ask, well, can I trust myself again? Can I think freely again? Can spirituality exist without awful coercion? Can ethics survive beyond fear? Those are profound human questions. And many survivors are not rejecting spirituality itself. Often they're trying to recover conscience from, I'm going to say, negative control. Not just control, but negative control. So that's a very different thing. Because a healthy spiritual environment shouldn't fear questions. It shouldn't fear conscience. It shouldn't fear compassion. So truth doesn't require intimidation to survive, or bullying, being pushed around, spoken over, undermined. It doesn't require that. That's what we mean by intimidation. So when we think about this, we think about law, we think about ethics, and we think about the now and future of society. So imagine a round table where you've got psychologists, lawmakers, survivors, police, enforcement, community leaders are sitting together constructively. I'm even going to put survivors there, persons who've got testimony to what's happened, right? So around the world today, you've got law, you've got psychology, you've got ethics, you've got governance. It's increasingly intersecting. You've got trauma-informed policing. You've got child protection reform going on. You've got safeguarding standards, institutional accountability, restorative justice, and whistleblower protection. So these conversations that are happening around the table, it's shaping the now and it's shaping the future. And importantly, many sincere leaders within institutions are also struggling with these questions. Police officers, elders, therapists, lawmakers, teachers, parents, many are trying to navigate impossible pressures while maintaining humanity. So our open circle is not about creating enemies. It's about helping society mature. Maturity begins when human dignity becomes more important than image management. So Matt, what does that look like? What does healthy leadership actually look like? So here's an idea. You've got a leader kneeling down beside people, listening rather than standing above them. If you want Jesus Christ imagery, it's Jesus Christ washing the feet of the disciples. But in this case, we're saying it's a leader kneeling beside people, not worshipfully. It's coming to the same level, to listen, to hear, not just hear, listening, rather than being aloof. I'm over here, far above. So healthy leadership is not perfection. Healthy leadership is responsiveness. A healthy leader can say, oh, I may not understand fully. I may have been mistaken. Help me see. Let us improve. Now that is strength. In fact, humility may be one of the most stabilizing forces in civilization. The wisest leaders throughout history often shared one quality. They remain teachable. And perhaps one of the greatest shifts society can make is this: moving from authority based primarily on control, let's control, towards authority grounded in ethical trustworthiness. And that applies everywhere. You want to say religion, you want to say government, you want to say family, you want to say media, you want to say education, you want to say business. Yes, all of these things. So here's questions for the open circle. This table, the circle that we've even imagined. You get ripples. Let's make it a pool of water. And we see the ripples expanding outward from a single drop of water. So can we ask a few questions in the circle here? What would happen if institutions felt safe enough to acknowledge mistakes early? What would happen if survivors were listened to before escalation occurred? What would happen if communities rewarded ethical honesty more than image preservation? What would happen if accountability became normal rather than catastrophe? And perhaps the deepest question is this: can society evolve towards systems where truth and compassion no longer fear each other? I believe that possibility exists. Not through hatred, not through endless polarization, but through courageous humanity. So, steps towards ethical healing. Can we imagine a sunrise over, what can we say, a city, while diverse people walk together toward the light? So as we open the circle, as we close this part and open the circle, human beings are capable of extraordinary growth. Institutions can evolve. Communities can improve. And leaders can learn. And survivors can heal. And relationships can transform. Acknowledgement is not weakness. It's the beginning of wisdom. And perhaps the now and the future belongs not to systems that never fail, but to systems capable of learning compassionately from failure. So to survivors, you are the surpassers. May you discover coherence. May we discover voice. May we discover peace and dignity. to leaders. May wisdom become stronger than defensiveness to communities. May ethics become stronger than fear. And to all listening here, to this open circle, whether a Jehovah's Witness, a leader, a shaper, a former witness, an ex-Jehovah's Witness, a Jehovah's Witness emergent, an elder, a police officer, an enforcer, a detective warrant officer, a lawyer, a psychologist, a criminologist, a researcher, or simply a thoughtful human being. Thank you for being willing to engage in difficult questions with humanity. Thank you. Thank you for this willingness. Because the present and the future, and dare I say even the past, is shaped by conversations like this. And perhaps healing begins the moment truth and compassion finally sits around the same table. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the open circle. Should we make sure it stays open? Should we open it?